There we go. Welcome.
All right, I will call the meeting to order at 6:01. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda?
No.
What was that?
People said no.
I have two. Under new business, I'd like to just have a quick discussion about the athletic fields and the auditorium. I think we should start looking into getting those projects up and moving. And then I don't know if this is the spot for it, but in other business, we'll talk about the parking lot items.
We would probably discuss those under 8 items for future agendas.
We will do that.
Bye, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
Anything else?
Bye, guys.
Public comment? Nope.
Bye.
All right, review approval of meeting minutes. Do you want to take these one at a time or get them all out of the way? I will take that as get them all out of the way.
There you go.
Well done.
So I look for a motion to accept the meeting minutes as written for July 25th, 2022 and August 1st, 2022.
Second.
Motion a second, all in favor?
All right.
I did not catch who moved and who seconded. I'm sorry.
I was Terry and Mary Jane.
Mary
Thank
Jane just arrived in person, so you know Andrea.
Vote.
Yes.
Opposed? All right. Thank you. New business. So I just wanted to have a short discussion about the athletic fields, kind of just an idea of how we want to proceed, looking into maybe having just a broad discussion next month or in October, depending on how our meeting schedule lands. Then the auditorium. I really haven't put any time into the auditorium. I know some stuff has been done, but I really don't know what's needed and what people want for it. So if that is something that we really want to discuss and really get into, just make some ideas, get some ideas together, and then have a prepared agenda item for that next month or the month after.
On it, probably the first one, just get her up to speed. I don't know anything. I'm sure Mary Jane is great. Yeah, that makes
The history going back with the SHS Foundation, you know, a lot of stuff was done. That group still exists too. We want to get them on board.
I spoke with Derek Cipriano today, actually, and suggested that he be prepared next month to come and talk about the fields and some of the updates and just he's been conducting an audit since he came on. And Derek, for folks who don't know, is our new athletic and activities director. And so over the time that he's come in, he's been looking at the needs in our current facilities and kind of compiling that. So he will be prepared to attend and speak to that next month.
Perfect.
Good timing.
Well, he got doubled up on because I had that same conversation with him today.
Did you?
Yeah.
I was right after lunch.
He's
so I
been
don't know
chatting.
when.
I was after
with me
you.
about it too. It's on his mind. It's good.
And the auditorium. Who kind of has all the ins and outs of what's needed, what's necessary?
Well, I have some history as far as on a volunteer basis. Patty Miriam volunteered efforts and actually prepared quite a lengthy study of because she's very well involved with the Opera House, and that's her thing. So she prepared and provided us a report, with various budget numbers of the ABCs of what you need in an auditorium to bring it up to speed and up to date. And that was eight years
I
ago.
was gonna say,
I'm gonna
yeah.
ballpark it, but several years ago. So obviously some of those numbers are going to be a little rough now, but it is a pretty comprehensive list of here's what you need to do in an auditorium.
Kind of like you don't want to proceed until you have some of these ducks in a row things when you do any of these sorts of renovations.
Yeah.
There've also been a number of high schools in the region who've done some of this work, and I think to get some updated information from those guys too about how they proceeded would be good.
Yeah. For both the theatrical end of it and the educational end of it, just aesthetics and seating and curtains and design and just.
And some has been updated, but some things which were kind of news to me when we started to look into it was the seating. For example, the seating is up to size code for when it was installed in the 60s.
Yeah.
So we're going to lose like 20% of our seating when we use today's size codes.
With the current floor plan.
Right.
Yeah.
So some things are going to make big differences.
Okay, and I kind of want to talk about expectations too, because we're not going to knock all these things out of the park. They're going to be small things that kind of get us moving forward. I mean, it's been close to a decade, and we really haven't done anything other than the lights, and no movement is quite frankly not acceptable anymore.
Well, we've got to have some serious, honest discussion about the funding. We've got to think pretty hard and talk about where that's going to come from. Fundraising hasn't gotten us anywhere yet, but it's a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of work on several people's parts to drive that.
Yep.
So we need to have some pretty hard, serious discussions. Start talking about funding for it.
For the discussion on the athletic fields, it probably makes sense to do a stormwater update at the same time, because that's going to certainly impact any changes out there.
I think we're going to have to. I don't think we're going to get away from that.
Yep.
Right.
For the list that I asked Derek to talk about, maybe we asked him for the same things, but I asked for a list of quick and easy updates that are really needed, and then things that are going to take a significant
Visionary
amount of
stuff.
time.
Yep.
It's not quick and easy to update the track, for example, because we would need to extend from 5 lanes to 8 lanes, which almost doubles the size of it, and that will run into the bleachers and maybe the lights. So
I'm pretty sure the lights are where they're supposed to be, because I think we planned for that.
that's the whole. But yeah, so some things that are like quick and easy to get them taken care of, and then others, easy, but others that are much more visionary.
Great. So I want to make sure that we have, want to do both the athletic field and the auditorium discussion in one meeting, or do you want to break them up? It might give someone who is more experienced with the auditorium needs more time to look.
Well, a thought I have is, how about, at least from my end, I can provide, the conceptual drawings showing the ball field renovation. I can provide the report that Patty Miriam provided for us in the past, kind of give you a bunch of this information ahead of time. People can read up on it, study the design of the map, give you a little background information to work with. And then maybe we can just jump in and start having a discussion, maybe give a little history, give a little history to the new folks, back in prior to 2010, a group of a dozen people or so. Here's some of the discussions that we had here, and then eventually here's what we got to with a conceptual drawing. And then maybe a little recap as to what few things we have done in the auditorium.
Would it also make sense if Derek's planning to come to do like a big presentation, see where the time leads us to maybe start with Derek doing a presentation, and then if there's time to go over some of the stuff Jamie was just talking about, kind of see where all of these going on. I guess it.
Oh, I don't know if we're putting the cart before the horse in either direction we go. I mean, we gotta
Yeah.
start somewhere, so I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
I guess we can try and do both. I mean, EEI is gonna be doing their thing, and I don't think we're gonna get much information from them. So,
Derek won't have much of the history,
Okay.
but he can, this being his first year here, but I do think that he'll be here, so he can certainly hear some of the history and
And there's a lot of historical knowledge, just
Yep,
this table.
absolutely.
Right? So
okay, so,
That could be done.
well,
thanks for getting this on the table.
it's been bugging me.
Good.
So. All right, and we'll get those things in order, and whatever else lands on the agenda too, we'll work it out. We'll figure something. All right, thank you. Old business, 6.1, HVAC project update.
Well, Mike, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Do you mind speaking some of that?
Nope, I don't. I don't have the, I think I passed Jamie some notes and I don't have those in front of me. So if I contradict myself, let me know. But basically where we're at is, we selected, new air handling units that, our electrical and structural engineer are sizing how to, power and support them. And then our mechanical engineer should finish the ductwork drawings by the middle of this month, so that by the end of the month, we can have a complete package, mechanical, structural, and electrical prints for this committee to review. And at that point, we will be able to send that package to the Agency of Education to get their review. And we can then bid out all the different items to local contractors and finalize the pricing. And hopefully by before the end of the year, we can get a contract approved by the board and go under construction. So the biggest steps is finishing the prints, because we gave some very high level drawings and some very, preliminary budgets, but I think we're going to fine tune all those and get that together before the end of the year, so that we can hopefully be underway in construction before the end of this calendar year. So in addition to the Agency of Education, we will also be sending everything to the State Fire Marshal's office, including a set of sprinkler drawings, which will be AutoCAD updated to the current code, because there was a set that was designed in the year 2000, but the codes have changed since then, so we're updating the sprinkler drawings as well. So that's a quick update on the.
We lost you, Mike. Are you there?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you still hear me?
We can hear you now.
Okay. Did you hear the update that I just gave?
You did. I think it was just the last sentence or two. You went quiet.
Okay. I don't know what happened, but I was just saying, so that's kind of where we're at on the mechanical side. Again, having stamped drawings by the end of the month, and then sending everything to the Agency of Education and the State Fire Marshal's office for review.
And Mike, could you speak to the information you gave us about the lighting?
Yeah. So one of the things that we talked about is it probably makes sense at, when we're taking all these light fixtures down to run ductwork, to put back LED lights rather than put fluorescent back in, because of the energy savings and the better performance, meaning the lights that we would propose would have dimming in all the classrooms, as well as photo sensing, so that when it's bright out, they'll automatically dim if they're near windows in classrooms. So what that proposal would be, it would be not part of the federal funds, most likely, but separately. Usually districts do those with a lease purchase. So we provided two options. Option one was to do the Career Tech Center, and I provided the energy savings and rebate for that. Then option two is to do the remainder of the high school, and I provided the cost, estimated annual savings, and rebates for that. And essentially, if you finance them with a lease for about 15 years at about 4% interest rate, I'm using the word about because depending on what day you finalize, the interest rate may tick up or down a little bit. There will be essentially no budget impact because the lease payment would be equaled by how much you save. So if you finance it over 15 years, it can be done without much of a budget impact at all on the bottom line. I do want to point out some districts, if they're projecting a surplus, or they have some capital funds, they may not want to finance the full amount. So sometimes they say, okay, we'll kick in, let's say 100,000, and then we'll only lease it for 10 years or something like that. And then usually when you go shorter term, it gets you a slightly better rate. But I wanted to show, okay, if the district doesn't have $1 to kick to this, which is fine, we can finance it for 15 years and there'll be very minimal budget impact.
When would we need to have a decision?
So Efficiency Vermont is the only one that's, so for EEI, we can do this basically at any point, but Efficiency Vermont is throwing $100,000 in rebates, and they are pushing me very hard to have this project started by the end of the year and completed by the following year. And it's a very big project. So Efficiency Vermont, to get that $100,000 rebate, we'd like to get approval basically in October. If that's what's pushing us a little bit.
And so I think you had mentioned previously that the overall air handling project is going to take a year and a half, maybe a little bit longer.
Yes.
So does that mean that we'd need to have the light portion of that finished before the air handler project was finished?
Yes. There's some areas, like for example, the auditorium, where we're not doing any work, where we could go in and do those areas first and then do the areas of new ductwork last. So I think we'd sequence that in a way that would make sense, so we're not doing things twice. And so on that specific thing, what we're seeking is sort of facility committee approval to recommend to the full board the high school portion, and then it's up to you if you'd like to do this career set tech as well.
All right, is that Josh?
Yes.
Go ahead, Josh.
Just a quick question when it comes to ductwork. Are we replacing all the ductwork? And if yes, why?
So there is no ductwork at the high school. So it's right now it was designed for all unit vents. So there's essentially, it's all brand new ductwork.
We probably can't put our finger on, Jamie, on our energy costs specifically to lights, right? There's no way for us to do that at this point.
Well, it might be a Mike question. Did you hear that question, Mike?
No, I couldn't fully understand it. Could you just say that one more time?
Like, we don't have a way, just because it's all together, but to see what our current usage and saving, or not savings, usage and costs and everything on our current light system, correct?
So no, the lights aren't broken out as part of your bill. It's all built in with air conditioning load and pumps and everything. But we kind of conservatively figured those savings based on the projected runtime of HVAC, of lighting equipment in a school. which is about 2,000 hours a year, which just if you think about it, 180 school days, 10 hours a day the lights are on, that gets you to 1,800. Then thinking of miscellaneous, sometimes they're on during the summer, sometimes they're on at night. So we project about 2,000 hours of runtime, and then the calculation of the wattage savings is pretty basic because you have a 96 watt 4-lamp fluorescent, and we're going to replace it with a 29 watt LED with dimming. So it's fairly safe these are fairly safe to assume we'll get these levels of savings.
And I agree, Mike. I think your 2,000 hours is pretty conservative. We have a lot of nighttime activity at times in the building, in summertime with maintenance and cleaning and whatnot. So I would agree with that.
Yep.
And I understand that the lighting is different from the switches, but we've talked on and off again over the years about motion detecting lights. I know some of the other buildings have those. Is that something that would be?
Yes, that would be built in. Yep, that would be part of this.
So pretty beautiful. Yeah.
I've worked in a work environment with these lights, and they're wonderful because they tone down, so you're not sitting, and they're conducive to natural light too. So you get more natural light depending on the windows. Makes a huge difference.
Josh?
As far as putting LED lights in, would it be more cost effective for the district to do that themselves, or is that better to hire out? I don't know what the cost is that's being charged in this contract.
Well, Mike.
Yep. I don't know exactly what the cost per fixture is. I'm just I think we usually figure $30-something a fixture is to pay an electrician to do that. I mean, there's a lot of work, so I don't know if there's I think 2,000 or 3,000. I don't have the numbers. There's thousands of light fixtures that have to get changed. I don't know. It will probably be a 4-man crew that does this work over a year. So I don't know if you guys have the staff to do that.
No, we definitely don't.
No, especially.
And Mike, are there penalties if we didn't get them all installed in that time frame?
Efficiency Vermont is not really in the game of wanting to pay out penalties. What I think they would more want to do is work with us to find a way to make it work as opposed to pay us a penalty. I've never had them be very difficult on that.
Any other questions?
It's a win-win. I don't see any other way around it.
Actually, really exciting stuff.
Right. Well, and not to mention too, I forget the date, but somewhere in the next couple of years, they're not making fluorescent lighting anymore. It's more or less, it's going away. So the time is coming. I mean, we need to, to go to the LED version. It's kind of the perfect time to do this.
So what discussion needs to happen about deciding for Spalding versus the entire building?
Well, it's broken down into two. One would be the DVCC, and then the remainder of the high school. And then if we were doing the entire building, it would be the sum of those two, correct?
Correct.
My suggestion is to do the entire building. I think we'd be foolish not to. If the anticipated savings are showing that's what's going to pay for the work to be done, is essentially a wash. And the opportunity to, as tough as it's going to be to schedule this in, we're going to find a way to make it happen. If we wait, years down the road and one part of the building is done and one's not, I think it's foolish if we don't try and make that happen. Only costs are going to go up. Availability is just, I think it's wise to do it now.
And that still fits in the 1-year time frame, Michael?
Yes.
So I guess I would look for a motion And this would go to the board.
Yeah, I mean, does it make sense to, I mean, we got finance committee Thursday. Does it make sense to have a conversation then maybe with Lisa, how are we gonna fund this? Right?
Well, yes, well, I mean, we can still make our recommendation to the board, and then finance can do their thing, and then both committees' information will go to the board at the same time.
Yeah, kind of how the funding is gonna work. What it's gonna look like.
Would, and this is probably for Chris, so like we did the tech center, it's kind of built so it's nets out, but who gets the benefit, us or them, right, with our contract or rent or lease or whatever?
Yeah, that ultimately we will. They're leasing that from us, you know, in the long run, but it would also benefit while they're here. And I guess that's the best way to explain it.
And then at the same time, I guess, remind ourselves, the entire campus, the entire building is owned and belongs to Spalding High School. The Career Center occupies a portion of it and more or less rents it from the school. At some point, if when they move on, I mean, we'll then, inherit this new lighting in that part of the building as well. But while they're here, they're reimbursing, they're paying us, rental fee for that. If this cost is, if it's a wash or at best, a savings on electrical usage, then it's going to benefit us that way as well. So, we're being smart. We're being smart, homeowners by taking care of our building and being more efficient. And as well, we're going to reap the benefits, higher quality lighting, more comfort levels is so much better. I can't find any disadvantages of not doing it. Both financially, aesthetically, I'm at a loss for words, but I can't find any disadvantage.
But any renovation that we would do after, we would just keep the same lights and shift them around if necessary.
Depending on what the needs are going to be once those guys leave.
Yeah.
But the infrastructure, the general, improvements would obviously stay.
Classrooms would still be, used as classrooms.
Right. I mean, if you're on the top floor of the tech center wing, I mean, essentially they're standardized classroom. They're an average size classroom with suspended ceilings with lighting in it now. So I don't really know how that would really change much, depending on the use. It's still going to be some form of classroom space and or office space, so to speak. So the lighting needs will still be relatively the same. The shop areas are still, I assume, going to still be some form of a shop area in the future. So again, it's still going to need the same type of lighting. You may need to tweak something here and there, but I don't really think you're looking at a major change when it comes to lighting. Like, kind of going on a little bit of a wild guess there, but I don't really see how. I don't see how we would lose. Other than a little major, minor modification, maybe of the layout, if you put up a couple walls or something here, but the lighting's still going to be needed.
And would it be easier going forward if you have the infrastructure in there, the new parts, especially if they're phasing out fluorescence, you've got the LED bells, all of that there, you'll be able to get parts if you need to shift things around.
Right. What's the, Jamie, or even Mike, what's the, so 15 years, right? So just like everything, things are updating. I mean, what year do these things become obsolete, and then there's something new or more efficient or whatnot?
The projected life of the LEDs in a classroom environment is about 20 years. So what they say is 100,000 hours, which if you go by our math, we were saying that they run about 2,000 hours a year. So based on the 100,000 hour estimated life, technically it'd be more like double that, but I think 20 is a more conservative number to use for the life of the technology. I will say, I know that we propose, and I guess this would probably be more for the finance committee. We proposed the 15-year solution. If you wanted to do a down payment, or rather than have it completely budget neutral, you know, and have it maybe have a $15,000 a year budget impact. We could finance it over 10 years if we want to get a little bit better interest rate. And I could break that down for the finance committee for Thursday.
Any other questions?
Michael, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
I think that's all I had for EEI stuff. So I'm going to sign off unless you guys think you have any other questions for me.
I don't think so. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Mike.
And Josh has a question.
Oh, thank you. Josh, go ahead.
Just in general, I mean, I'm hoping we can have a conversation of what the career center space will be used for before we sink a lot of money into it. It's like, I know it could be used for classrooms in the future. We could also just use for dry storage. So I'd hate to put millions of dollars into that area and absolutely not need any of that money put into it.
So, it's, well, the choices are project 1, project 2, both the projects. It all comes down to someone making a motion.
Well, so I'm just going to, I guess, throw out sort of the two scenarios. If we follow through and replace all the lighting throughout the entire building with LEDs, then we have new lighting to go forward with. If we're unsure of what the use is going to be of the career center portion of the building, and we keep the fluorescent lighting, at some point we're going to use that space. I can't speak for you, Luke, but I would dare say we're going to probably find a majority, if not most of that use, that space can be put to use.
Yeah.
So at that point, we still have obsolete lighting that we now have to maintain. It's going to be hard to maintain that lighting because it's going to be obsolete. I mean, we'd be able to get parts and bulbs for a while, yeah, but you know, within a year or two, you're gonna be struggling to then replace it. I can't find a disadvantage of not doing the entire building.
I think it's highly likely and we're not talking a couple of years from now. It's going to be a ways before they move out.
Right.
I cannot imagine it is not going to be used for students in some way.
Right.
Just cannot imagine. That's a good thing.
Right.
Um,
Right. I mean, just from a facility standpoint, now I could, find probably a third of that space. Right off the top of my head, I could find uses for it. I'm sure Luke.
You leave it alone. Luke gets it first.
It's true though. Everybody's going to be like, well, wait a minute.
But everyone's got their direction they're going. So I mean, yeah, I can't foresee any problems of using that space.
Yeah, I don't think that would become storage. I don't think anyone would let it become storage. There's too much need.
Right.
So Julian, are we sending it to the board for review, or are we sending it to the board for approval? I mean, or do we let the finance committee kick it around first and then send it to the board? Let them send it to the board. Right? How do you do that?
Well, I mean, we can just give the board our recommendation. That's all it is. It's a recommendation to the board, and then based on that knowledge that the committee has listened and decided that this is the best way to go forward. And then the finance committee will have digested the numbers and we'll have a better understanding.
I would add, Lisa can review the funding sources and all that stuff, and how this is going to work. I think that would just be helpful to review it and just keep it on the radar.
And Lisa's aware of this already. Yeah. I shared this information with her, so I'm sure she's already got her wheels spinning about this.
So the board's going to see it all at the same time.
So does the finance meet before the board meets?
Yeah, this week, Thursday.
Oh, so that's perfect.
Yeah.
I don't mind sending it off to the board. I don't want to make a recommendation. Let's send it to the board and let the board decide. I don't want to make a recommendation myself.
Well, so you're saying that you don't want to either
Nope.
do project 1, project 2.
I'm not saying it, but I'm saying I don't want to make a recommendation. I'd rather just let the board make the decision.
But isn't the board looking for some input from us though, as a facilities committee?
Well, they
Yeah.
are, but it would be, if I will tell you, if it was me, it was my decision, I would want more than one option, right? And I think this option is good, but I think we'll probably get folks that are gonna say, well, that's one option, what are other options, right? And I think we know what some of the other options are, but, that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't, it's still a recommendation.
Mhm.
So your recommendation would be to send this document to the board. So then,
We'll do that, okay. So moved.
But I'm a little confused though. I mean, is it the work of the facilities committee is to recommend it to the board is then to hear what the work of the committee did. Well, if we're not doing the work, if we're not bringing a recommendation to them, are they now doing the work of the committee?
I can,
What if we just were to say, here's both options, we are leaning towards one option out of the two. That way it's still leaving the options open, but somewhat giving a direction where we think.
Yeah,
I think we're all over the map here a little bit, because I'm personally in supportive of doing something like this. I think we're all kind of sitting a little different, and I think that's where we're struggling to come up with the motion.
Yeah, I'm generally in favor as we've reviewed this and gone along. But we went from, originally we talked about just doing this in the footprint of where we're doing HVAC. Now we're doing the whole building. Right, so that's very different than what we talked about. So I'm okay sending it off to the board, but like I said, I don't, right, if you were a commercial property owner and you're leasing stuff to people and you make a upgrade to the building, whether there's savings or not, you renegotiate the lease and they pay more money. Right, we're not doing it for profit, obviously, right? But that's the real world, right? If you're a property owner, you don't make improvements to a building and let them have it for nothing. And I'm not saying we should make money on the district. That's not, or the tech center. That's not what I'm saying, right?
No, I get you.
Yeah.
I get you.
So as long, and just speaking for myself, as long as if we're not making a formal recommendation as the facilities committee to the board, and then it goes to the board for all board members to bat around, ask questions and discuss, are they then going to want it to now go back to the facilities committee to then come back the following month to then make the formal recommendation?
we don't have the time for that.
Well, and that's part of my
That's the
concern,
problem.
right?
So what we do, this one does, this is in addition, right? So this is, I think if I heard him correctly, this isn't gonna impact them. This is gonna be.
I think
added
it-
to this,
Efficiency Vermont
Yes,
pushing
it follows the efficiency Vermont,
rebates.
yes.
So be careful we don't lose those incentives at the same time. If I'm a board member and I see facilities committee comes to us and there's an informal recommendation, that's going to put a little question in my mind. Well, if I'm not getting a recommendation from the committee, now I'm not feeling very supportive. I'm not feeling very confident on what the consensus is. for facilities committee.
That's what I'm hearing.
I think
Yeah.
if finance was before facilities and we had the numbers before, and putting this all together, I think it might be wise to swap finance and facilities, because I think we're going to be running into this problem more often than not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say that this committee is in support of the project of moving forward with the lights, but it's really up to the finance committee to determine how or if it's viable from a financial standpoint?
I think just to be aware.
Because we're not
Yes.
saying, we don't have to say it's project A, B, or combination, but we're in support of the lights, but there are other factors that
Yes.
need to be taken into account.
Yes.
Perfect way to say
Yeah, fair enough.
I can't move.
it.
So,
Andrea.
Roger?
So Terry was starting to make a motion, and I'm wondering, should the motion be that the facility committee is recommending that the board review for consideration the lighting plan submitted by EEI? And by the time they meet, they will have input from the finance committee.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's kind of what we're moving towards.
nice way
It
to
ju-
sum it up.
It just needs to be
Done.
made.
By a
Motion needs
board
to be-
member?
Yes, no, a committee member.
The committee member,
Can I
that's
make
what
a
I meant.
motion to do what Andrea just said?
You can.
Thank you, Andrea.
And I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, thank you.
Very good.
We needed some more dismiss.
Yeah. That's all right.
All right, Jamie, summer projects update.
I always like to, after summer is over, kind of review and recap what all the projects were. So when folks think, what kind of projects were done all summer long. And a lot of them I repeat myself every year, but so I'll do that anyway. The high school, we did, probably should have counted this up ahead of time. 1, 2, 3, 4, about 6 different classrooms in between classrooms and some hallway spaces of removing asbestos containing material tile and replacing it with VCT tile. That's always an annual project. We are still in the midst of renovating 2 single-use restrooms down around the Career Center end of the building. Again, just remodeling those restrooms from the 1964 era of when they originally built. So just kind of gutting the 2 bathrooms, ceramic tile on the floors and walls, all new fixtures, lighting, just top to bottom renovation. So we're a little bit behind on that schedule just due to the contractors trying to fit in all the work for us. But the work is now being done on some nights and weekends. So within the next couple of weeks, that project will be done as well. We have created a brand new single-use ADA compliant restroom up in the main front lobby of the school. We've got to really have that, so we've kind of taken upon ourselves to get up to speed and create that restroom. We're just waiting for a door to come in. That door was ordered back midsummer, but like everything in the world, we're in that holding pattern for materials and as far as labor to install it as well. But that's anticipated to come in the next week or 2 as well. So. The front entrance of the high school as well, we replaced all the fire exterior set of doors that takes you into the main entrance. The doors there were pretty well worn, not as safe as well. We installed the reflective tinting on the windows to help keep folks safer inside the building should something bad want to happen. So that project was done. That project was done early part of summer, so that was nice. And then just, various nuts and bolts work throughout the building on top of the annual cleaning and stripping the floors and waxing and all that.
Jamie, do you know how many rooms are remaining to do redo the floors, tiles?
Roughly I think somewhere between 15 to 20 classrooms that we have left throughout the building.
That's not bad.
There's no, we're within a few more years and the building will have been all done. Go back about 10 years ago, we had a tremendous amount of asbestos floor tiles in the building, so we're just about there. And that's where you kind of sit back and think. You try to get overwhelmed with the large list of what you need to do, but take it a couple 3 years.
It's chipper.
Yeah, take 2-3 years down the road, and in 3 years' time, you've done 12-15 classrooms. You renovated restrooms here and there. So yeah, it's just they just chip away at it. Berry City Elementary School, same thing. We did 4 classrooms up there where there's no asbestos tile in that building, but what they do have in the classrooms is a combination of tile and carpet. I'm going to say it's about an 80-20 split. 80% of it's carpet and 20% is a tile. So we're taking up the tile, carpet, and going back with all tile for many reasons. Just for the health of the building, health of the staff and students. The ease of cleaning and maintaining it for the custodial staff. It's kind of a no-brainer. Did a little work in the boiler room, replacing some piping, Victalic fittings. Did another big wave of Victalic fitting replacement on the heating piping. And for folks that aren't aware, what that means is where the 2 pieces of pipe come together, there's a clamping mechanical means. And that just fails. It's kind of a cheaper method when they installed it in the building. So we've been replacing that pipe with welded pipe. It'll last essentially forever. So that's been an ongoing project through the years. Renovated a couple restrooms as well. Some folks still think of that building as a new building, but the building is a 7-year-old building now. So starting to renovate some spaces, and as you can imagine, student restrooms take a lot of use and sometimes abuse. So renovate a couple more restrooms there as well. Berry Town, we did a very large amount of roofing up there. We now have completed all the roofing at Berry Town, so all the roofing is now done, so we can kind of check that off the to-do list with a 20-year warranty on all the work that we just did. So that was huge. We did about a dozen classrooms there as well, taking up carpet, asbestos floor tile, going down with new VCT tile. So that was huge too. That was a lot of flooring. Yeah, that pretty much was the bulk of the work at Berry City. That was huge.
Yeah.
At Berry Town rather. And if I back up a second, our original plan was to do roofing at both Berry City and Berry Town. We couldn't do Berry City roofing because they simply just couldn't get the material in time to use for the summer, which kind of worked out good because it allowed us to do more work at Berry Town School, and now we're done. So now we can focus more on Berry City next summer. So that's the plan. The central office building, early part of summer, we repaved that parking lot. So that was huge for the central office building. It was sorely needed.
It really was.
Yeah.
I mean, usually it's looked at when it was bad.
Yeah.
Parking lot.
And then, our C building, new C building, is only a year old. But we just kind of put the shine to that building again, clean floors, and wasn't really any project to do there. Just Keith, our maintenance guy there, does an outstanding job, and just again took care of the grounds. But that is what he did do, though. He spent some extra time this summer working on the grounds, kind of fine tuning some of the drainage work, organizing some of the stones that is in the drainage areas.
I noticed that.
Just really
The
put a
stacked
shine to it.
stones.
Yeah,
Okay.
he did a very nice job, as well as just taking care of the building. So, yeah, that's kind of what we worked on this summer.
All right, thank you, Jamie. Any questions?
Great work.
All right, other business.
Anybody want to go first? Because I've got a few.
I think you're it.
Okay. So one of them, honestly, Julian, I was right along with what you're talking about, like with the auditorium stuff. So one of the questions I have, and it's probably for Jamie, is do we have a needs list for each building, right? So when I say a needs list, so obviously the maintenance guys, their to-do list, I'm sure they have something in there. I don't know if it's written down, but also like what was the word you used? The
Visionary.
The visionary
Yeah,
stuff, right? Yeah. So
Down the road.
Yeah. Do we have I can envision that we should have a list of from the maintenance folks. Here's everything we see that the building needs. Here's what the administrators in the building think we need, and here's what we want, right? Needs and wants in that plan. And then also, in addition to that, the strategic items and plans. Do we have something like that for each building?
Well, I guess for starters is, we do have the 5-year plan, and I have updated that a bit, but that's the nuts and bolts of.
Yeah, but that's definitely, right. I got a copy.
Right.
That's not what I mean.
Right.
Right.
No, I just start the discussion.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think it would be useful, especially budgeting, right? And strategic planning. I mean, if we don't know what we don't know, then, right, how do you do that stuff? And I think it's one thing to know the maintenance stuff, but I want to know what each person's thinking, right? Hey, I would like to see this classroom change into this, or, can we do this with the auditorium or that with the auditorium, right? It'd be nice to have a plan.
An example of what you're talking about would be a desire of Berry City to have more outdoor learning opportunities. I know that is something those guys,
Yep.
When I was there,
Yep.
we were talking about that.
Yeah. Yeah, different, when you
Use those
windows that are
grounds
bigger,
better.
right? Yeah, whatever, right? Yeah, just, but I think maintenance we do a good job of maintenance. You do a good job of maintenance, but I think we gotta you know, a complete plan is gonna have the visionary stuff, it's gonna have the strategic stuff, it's gonna have all that stuff, right? Like, Luke, what's on your wish list? Wow, I'd really like to see this and this and this and this. Let's verbalize it and formalize it, and it would be cool to say, yeah, here's Berry City, here's Berry County, here's Fall. Right? Just a thought, and I think it kind of goes along with what you're saying. It just, that stuff has languished for years and kind of fallen by the wayside, whereas if we have a plan, a facilities plan that encompasses those things, it's more visible, and it's harder to ignore it.
Yeah, maybe similar to like the rotation schedule that we had for safety issues and camera placements. You know, we kind of rotated from building to building.
Mhm.
Maybe something like that. We build our list and then we kind of work around it.
I know it'd probably be a good undertaking, and unfortunately, it probably dumps most of it on you, but it'd be a good undertaking to go around and do all that. It would take some time, but I think it would be very, very worthwhile.
Principals involved in the
Well, I was gonna say, actually,
Yeah.
no, it's more so actually on the administrators. You know, what is your wish list? What is your vision, you know, for your building?
And honestly, I think it would be fun for us to participate because we would learn that, you know, we're the facilities committee, but I don't really know the buildings mechanically and stuff like that. I would like to have, honestly, I went to Berry City and here one day, it just dawned on me, I didn't realize there was a second floor. But why are there windows up there?
That's what makes me.
I had no idea that there was a second floor, seriously, right? So I
third through
think it'd be-
sixth grade up there.
Yeah, so it would be cool to participate as well, because you would learn your building stuff.
I think the timing of that is perfect, having the strategic plan just reviewed and brought up, because
It kind of fits.
so much
Yeah.
of what we do needs to go towards that. And so if we're talking about improving student engagement, you know, how do our facilities facilitate student engagement? And
Yeah, it might be easier with this or versus this.
Is is it also a perfect timing, being that we just are coming out of a pandemic where we had to get so creative with everything, and now we've learned there's probably different learning styles, different needs, where it might be like Chris was talking about, the outside would be great to expand Berry City's outside, but what other needs? Because I'm sure there's a lot of different creativity going out there and
Yeah.
learning.
To your point, a lot of people, it's hard for them to imagine because it was such a fraught time,
Yeah.
those 2 years. But there was a lot of really good stuff that came out of it.
Absolutely.
It caused us, actually forced us to have to think differently.
Mhm.
And some of it was like, this is
Yeah.
actually a lot better for kids.
Well, that's why I think that's a cool comment, because I think you're right. I think
It
if
is.
we would probably, if we went through this process, I think we would be very surprised some of the things we'd hear people say. I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what, pre-COVID, we never would have thought that way.
And you didn't have to.
well, our parent teacher conferences, which will be coming up
Mhm.
very shortly, we wouldn't have done remote options.
Right.
And now we've seen our family engagement really exponentially increase, because we can participate from right after work and not have to drive all the way in or at work
Yeah.
or Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I just, in my head, I'm thinking like all encompassing, security, access, you name it. I mean, just aesthetics, right? There's so many different angles that you can look at it from, and it would be nice to have a document with all those goals in one place, because then it doesn't fall by the wayside for 8 years,
So maybe you could kick this off.
Sorry.
Just an email to Edmund,
Yeah.
putting that together.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. We can, I have standing meetings with principals. One of them is right here right now, so Spalding will be good, but I meet with Berrytown tomorrow, so we can start getting this on the radar. I know these guys are already thinking about this stuff.
Sure.
And even the maintenance guys, right? I bet the maintenance guys know there are things that need to be done. But I bet you maintenance guys will go, well, if you're going to give me some leeway, this should be done too. Holy smokes, I never thought of that, right? But they've got some good ideas too.
Yeah, I'll consult with my maintenance and custodians. Hey, guys, if you had some thoughts to share, and what would you do? See if their ideas.
Yeah, just be
Yeah,
nice
that-
to have it on the radar, so don't forget it.
Yeah, let's say our 5-year plan, that's more, nuts and bolts of, it's literally the parking lots, the roofs, the windows, the doors. It's, that's where most of my focus time goes to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I guess I envision this as like
Yeah.
a short-term, long-term, and a strategic plan all wrapped up in one. Cool stuff. So, cool. Thank you. My second one was the SHS fields, but it sounds like we're gonna have that conversation anyway. And I just, like I had said, I think it's important that we make sure we have that stormwater discussion at the same time because
Yep.
it doesn't make a lot of sense to do stuff with the
Yeah,
fields if we're gonna have to dig them up afterwards and put stormwater underneath them. So. And then just lastly, for me, for other business was, it may be a whisker late, Jamie, but could you share some of your budget priorities with the committee, maybe next meeting? Things that you're thinking and priorities for you in terms of maintenance and again, short term, long term, but from your perspective. That's all I got. Wasn't really that much. Good one.
Anyone else with other business? Anyone else? All right, items for future agenda, the parking lot.
Does parking lot fall under other business or future? Because we're doing
I
it
think it's
now.
future, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yes, it's future.
I just thought if you're talking about it now, it's not future, but it's been a
Don't
long
overthink
day.
it, Mr. Aether, don't
It's been a long
overthink
day.
it.
So we have 3 items: the Spalding High School track update, athletic entrance at SHS, and the bus survey. So I think we're going to kind of tackle the track. The athletic entrance, I think, is not really a thing anymore
Not for the foreseeable future.
unless we decide to make it as part of our.
That was a proposal from years ago, from the Lambs, and I think there was some granite that was earmarked and identified to put in, like a granite arch that people would enter the fields under.
I
But
took that as the entryway into the.
no,
So,
but the discussion was if we're going to invest installing these large granite structures and then overhaul the fields. So that's when that was originally put on, but I'm going to say like 4 or 5 years ago,
Good
maybe more
intentions,
than
good
that.
Two, I think it started and then I left.
Yeah, it was within the last year and a half to
Is that
2
all?
years. Well, it had gotten refreshed. No, it got
Oh, it
refreshed
got
again,
refreshed,
like,
okay.
like you say, from the Lambs. You want to create this, very nice, very glorified, entrance onto the ball fields, but I think it's
I mean, our turnstiles are a little bit outdated, maybe a little,
Yeah.
but,
Some fencing.
but there's a big leap between the turnstiles and,
Yeah, I think we'll kind of work our way into that eventually. It's not going away, but it's not going to be that.
Would it be something like tail end for the athletic fields conversation, like get the athletic fields, stormwater, all that, and then tail end, figure out how to dress it up?
And then the
So
bus
get-
survey,
Sorry, Jim. So get rid of that one or keep it?
gone.
Okay.
It'll get kind of
it's part of it.
Yeah, okay.
Part of it.
wrapped up in
And
all
that's
that.
just track update. We're gonna do that anyway, so that comes.
Yes, the bus survey. I know it was done. There really wasn't much interest in it. Is it something that we need to have on to review the map?
I mean, this is the short answer is no. I think we can remove that. We were looking for a map from, our contracting bus company. But that was coming into play just as COVID hit. And then we talked about using the same kind of stops that we were using to deliver, food while we were doing the food during remote learning. But in the end, there just really wasn't the
Really
interest
minimal. It
that's
was really
needed. It was
interesting.
very, we ended
Kinda
up
surprised
running
us.
multiple empty buses,
Oh.
because people just did not use them.
Now, could this evolve into I think it was the original plan. I think that Tom Sador, were you part of that? Bringing, providing a bus service to
That was after I left. But I remember him talking to me about it a bit. I don't know
Yeah,
how far it got.
this was the original kind of first step to see if bringing busing was a feasible, fiscally doable thing. And I think what we found was that there just wasn't enough interest to be fiscally responsible with it.
Combined with the bus driver shortage and all that, it was just a perfect storm situation.
Right. And we'll say drivers shortage, but bus shortage as well, because the same company is serving Berry City and Berrytown and surrounding areas. So we would need to be looking at a significant number of bus purchases, and there's a lot wrapped up into it. I do think transportation as a part of this committee is going to remain really important at the high school. One of the things that we are looking at right now with our school counselors is attendance. And we have some folks that just have not come to school yet. So our next step is finding out why they're not coming to school. And if it's transportation, then what can we do to help them to get here?
At a smaller scale.
On a smaller
more directed scale.
Yes.
Andrea?
Yeah, just the Roberts Rule Police, because we're actually holding discussion on an item rather than deciding whether or not it's going onto an agenda, if that makes sense. We're actually discussing it now, which we shouldn't be.
Thank you.
So we want to give it a date? Like a come back to date, or just kind of keep it off and then
I'd remove.
Rely on-
as
rely on you? to
as it's
remind us?
written, I would remove it.
Okay.
Transportation in general will be
Correct.
This is,
Yeah.
well, this is the committee. It's the transportation committee, so we're kind of.
Yeah.
We're at
we
that.
can add a specific agenda item as we need to.
All right, so additions to the parking lot. Now our parking lot's empty. We need some vehicles.
Fill it up.
Yeah.
Well, so the SHS track update, we didn't remove that.
Well, it's
now
kind of
coming-
part of the athletic fields
Right. Well, that's where,
conversation.
okay. Well, that's where I was headed with that is I didn't really like the way that it's worded, SHS track update.
Mhm.
We're talking about the entire sports complex.
Yeah, the first two.
Yeah.
The first two bullets are kind of now part of the athletic fields
Okay.
discussion.
Good. All right.
Originally, we had focused on just the track as the next step for updating, but then when we looked into it further, we need more.
Yeah.
A broader conversation.
So as of right now, I have the athletic fields and the auditorium as one parking lot item, which we will visit very quickly. And then a needs and wants list. Parking lot, sorry. Yes. Anyway,
Yeah, so then, yeah, the needs list for my building, right? Yeah, the short-term, long-term, strategic, visionary list, plan, I don't know what you call it.
Well, for clarification, my understanding it was the parking lot was just things that we're gonna have to revisit in the future as opposed to future agenda. Like, we can't talk about this next time. It's gotta be further down the road.
well, it is. We're talking about smaller things that we can get started with the athletic fields, but the athletic fields are like a bigger conversation of the turf, track, major things that we're not gonna, whack right off.
Gotcha. I'm with you.
That makes sense. I was getting confused.
Short parking lot's okay. I'm okay with a short parking lot.
I've got space.
I know, it's okay though.
Andrea?
So I'm just trying to so that I have it clear. In October, we're going to discuss preliminarily the athletic fields and the auditorium and budget priorities. But you want to keep athletic field updates and the athletic entrance as like one item in the parking lot. Is that what I'm understanding, or am I just totally confused?
It's, well, I would call it the big ticket items. That would be in the parking lot.
Auditorium, the athletic fields in general, right? There's smaller bullets underneath each
Yes.
of those.
Yes.
Subcategories.
So Yeah, so I guess I'm just confused. I'm not sure what to tell Tina to
Yeah.
do with this. Usually the parking lot is something.
I guess we could just make it easier and keep it off the parking lot, and then when we come to that next month, figure out how we're gonna divide it up and then add it to the parking lot.
Okay, yeah, because yeah, usually the parking lot is just, okay, we don't want to forget these things in the future, but you're already not forgetting them because you're discussing them next month. If that makes sense.
I'm losing stuff on our parking lot.
Sinkhole
Oh, yeah,
in there.
Terry's big, is Terry's big item with the visionary stuff, is that going in the parking lot for now?
Yes.
Because it's gonna take time, because that's a big one.
So for the agenda, another HVAC update, it sounds like we'll have stuff to talk about for October. That kind of the way Mike sounded.
I think so. I think, yeah. I mean, I'll ask him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and prior to the meeting, I'll reach out to him and say, what do you have for updates? Can you share it with me? And if he's willing to join the meeting and again, share with us where they're at.
Giuliano, your point earlier about reversing or flip-flopping facilities with finance, does that go to the board to make that
Yes.
change?
So basically the Monday, Thursday switch in October,
Well, no, well, I
or
think
just in general.
in general, I think it might be a bigger conversation where like we come up with these things we want, and then the holdup is we've got to go.
More strategically have meetings.
Mhm.
I just don't want to lose that. If that's a board discussion, I just want to make sure, I don't know if that needs a motion to be brought to the board for consideration.
How would that work? Say we had visionary ideas in 1 month, and then it would go to finance the next month, then it would come back to us. That same, so say we had ideas this month, let's say lighting, just as an example, it would go to that committee in October. I'm just using it as a broad example. Then it come back to us afterwards, after finance has reviewed it. Is that, I'm just trying to figure out
It could, yeah. It
if
could.
need be. I'm just trying to think
Well,
of,
I think more times than not, we're already going to have things like the lighting already to go, and the numbers will need to be discussed
Okay.
before we meet. Like that, what we'll do for the athletic fields, that's a little different. That's kind of a multi-step process where we come up with stuff, finance will look at it, and they'll come back to us. So
okay.
that
makes
kind of
sense.
leapfrogs,
That
but
makes
it's
sense.
more of the current stuff that we're dealing with right now with like EEI.
I would think the visionary list from each building, I mean, that's gonna be some many, meeting discussions. I mean, first it's gonna be here's some of our ideas, but then, then we all need to expand on and discuss it. Okay, well, if you wanna bury down, you wanna redo that front entrance to make it more, user friendly, more safer, easier for parents to pick up, drop off, that kind of thing. So, okay, boom, there's a huge idea. Well, now there's gonna be a lot of discussion. Well, how do we think it was gonna work? I think this visionary list is this is the start. I mean,
And we need to remember that
Before we go to finance.
when we were for ESSER funding, coming up with priorities, a lot of this was done. So we have a list of some priorities that came out of that at all three
Right.
schools. It'd be just interesting to see how much of that has changed, say, in the last year or two, you know?
Well, right, at the very beginning of COVID, a lot of these ideas came out. And then as we learned to live and grow with COVID, okay, that wasn't as big an issue.
Or we learned as well that funding wasn't quite as extensive as we had thought it would be. So, like, for example, the HVAC at Spalding is a big chunk of the money we're using. We didn't know. We didn't know what was going to be available to us when we started doing some of this work. So,
And there may be some good ideas hidden in that list.
sure.
Absolutely.
Parking lot?
We should have done it other, but can I bring it up for a future agenda?
Yeah.
Sorry. So, you guys are gonna have to help me with this. Policy and or procedure for contractors.
For permitting.
Yeah, right, just like what you and I talked about today, you already do it, so let's have an actual procedure. So someday when you go somewhere else and we get somebody new that doesn't know it, and go, here's the procedure. We have a contractor coming in to do work, whether we hire them or somebody else does. Do we have their insurance certificate? Do we have their permit? Do we have their scope of work? Who's gonna oversee, just a procedure for what happens when a contractor comes to BUUSD to work on a building or property for us or for somebody else. If there's a contractor here working.
Yeah.
Are we aware of everything we need to be aware of?
And we currently don't have a policy like,
And does it need to be a policy? Or can it just be a procedure?
It does not need to be, I don't believe it needs to be a policy.
Just a procedure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This kind of thing.
Sorry, I meant to mention that, other. I forgot it.
well, no, I was just kind of going through the if it would be a policy type thing, just to, there's really.
I don't think so. I think it's a checklist almost, right? Just
That's how I look at it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I would say
It's a
some of that
guide,
would
a guide to how to
probably,
proceed with these things. Yeah.
some of it would probably fall in another policy on security. Pieces of it probably fall in many different policies already.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's
Right, because there's bid and there's the, conflict of interest and all those things. So it does probably fall under a number of different policies, but.
Yeah, there's not one that kind of,
Yeah.
where they're housed.
Like an onboarding checklist.
just to make sure. Right? Sorry, I meant to mention that earlier. Sorry.
So is that for the parking lot or for October?
I would say parking lot.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah. I'm thinking about it. If we want to think about what should be on it.
Juliano's happy. He's putting something in the parking lot.
And I'm putting Terry's name next to it.
And the date, right? Just-
Oh, I
Look at
forgot
what were
about
they
the
doing? They
date.
were doing names and dates.
Is that the- is that-
Initials and dates.
Well, okay, so is that the today's date or
I
is
think
it a future
I
date?
think it's today's date.
I can do that.
I think that's what we did.
That's the date that it got put on.
I believe so.
Into the parking lot.
I believe that is correct.
But there are some future dates associated with this.
Are you getting punchy as
I will
well?
stop.
Maybe.
Okay, are there any other items for the parking lot? Okay. Now this is another pressing question. October 10th is Columbus Day. School will not be in session. It kind of leads us to having a different date for a meeting. If we're gonna continue the discussion about the athletic fields.
Yeah.
If we move it to the 17th, would that make it
Now,
now?
policies meeting on the
Policy.
17th.
Oh,
So the 3rd is the week before, but that makes us pretty short. Tuesday, the 11th. You guys want to switch a date?
Do we want to, is there potential for moving with finance in October?
I don't think there's enough time. to-
Okay, no, I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Could you
as
literally
we're
do it the
talking
following
dates.
day instead of
That's
the
what I'm-
10th, do it the 11th?
That's what I'm
fine.
thinking.
If there's anything on Tuesday, the 11th.
There are no like,
There's no committees that meet on
Committee.
Tuesdays right now.
Yeah, there's nothing.
Okay, so we will make that change to October 11th. Same time, same place.
Easy enough.
And if that is it, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by
Second.
Terry. Second by Tim. Any discussion? All right. All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Thank you,
Night,
we're
guys.
adjourned.
good night, everyone.
Aye.
Very good.